The Cigar Nerds Podcast.
And welcome to Cigar Nerds Podcast. I'm your host, Smokin' Joe.
I'm Brad Jackson.
Here we are, back again. Before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to our friends at King of Camo. They invited me to a kind of a private friends and customers range event, and that thing was, I got to shoot machine guns. Got to shoot a freaking Russian RPK. Got to try a few things that I've not shot. It was a good day. Yeah, check out my Instagram. I'm smoking a cigar and shooting a Russian RPK. I was like, yeah, anytime y'all want to have one of these, I will be here. It was a great time. Go check those guys out. They got a YouTube channel. Get your guns painted, whatever. But this week, I'm smoking the new Diesel Tempest TAA cigar. This thing sports a Ecuadorian Habano wrapper over Nicaraguan binders and a filler blend of Nicaraguan and Honduran tobacco.
Ecuadorian and Honduran.
And I like the box. Like it also comes. They did another release that came in the box looked like a big book, and this one also looks like a book. So yeah, that's it's kind of cool to box just to keep on your keep on your shelf. You know, throw some snacks in it, whatever.
I love cigar box snacks.
Gotta put your Skittles somewhere.
I mean, that'll keep the kids out of it. They'll never think to look there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there's a book we're not going to read? And you're like, haha, I got Skittles in there. They don't know. So us as fans of horror movies, we lost kind of a legend in the industry, Mr. Tony Todd here recently. So this week, we're going to talk about Candyman and maybe a few of his other major roles. But yeah, we're going back to the 90s and talk about some speaking of Skittles, talk about Candyman. Didn't know I was, wrapping all this together, but there we are.
That's how you know that you've been doing this.
Yeah, the whatever transitions just come naturally. You don't have to think about it.
If you're going to take candy from a stranger,
you should call in the Strike Force. StrikeForceEnergy.com. Use your promo code Cigar Nerds for 20% off your order. Get all caffeinated before you look in the mirror and say that name you shouldn't say 5 times.
What name?
It's like Beetlejuice, but Candyman. You say Beetlejuice 3 times, Beetlejuice shows up, you say Candyman 5 times. It usually ends up a lot worse than saying Beetlejuice 3 times.
I don't know.
Luckily, there's no mirrors here in the office, so if we say Candyman too much in the episode, we're not gonna get hooked.
I mean, the biggest thing is just not denying that Candyman's real.
Pretty much.
That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to get right back with the main show and talk all about the guy we shall not speak about. And welcome back. So, Candyman. Fuck.
We just said we weren't going to do this, and there you go. Now you did it.
Yes. 1992's Candyman, directed by Bernard Rose, based on a story by a little guy you may have heard of, Clive Barker, of Hellraiser, called The Forbidden.
Was that... I'm not familiar with The Forbidden, I don't think.
I think it was some kind of short story, but I haven't really read
because that was the thing about, the Candyman film, or I should say films, plural. It really wants to rehash the story of Candyman many times.
Yeah, it's like every movie, they're like, here's, in case you haven't seen the previous two, here's what...
I mean, it's almost one of those where it could be like, you could kind of watch any of them, but I would recommend only watching the first one. I guess the second one isn't terrible, but then the third was just a train wreck.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even seen like the second two. And when this first came out, this movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. Like, and like now I go back and watch it, I'm like, this is pretty mild. Most of the kills happen off camera, like with the exception of like the the doctor, the like psychiatrist. You see him getting ripped up pretty good, but most of the time you just see the aftermath of the kills. You don't get to see like the actual kill. And I'm like, now that I'm like a dude who watches the Terrifier series, that I'm like, why was I scared of this as a child? Because this isn't that like bad as compared to what we watch nowadays.
And yet again, that's why you're going to get a hook in the back. I don't know. For me, it was, I guess, not so much more about the methodology of the kills, more so than just how manipulative Candyman can be.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that, hey, I'm just trying to hash out the true lineage here, as long as you're not flat out denying. But no, it's like, now I'm going to kill you all, pretty much all the same, because I'm in pain, and you too shall be in pain, and in pain we will remain together forever.
Is it just me, or does he kind of like Black Freddy Krueger? Because Freddy gets his powers from people believing he exists. Where that's kind of how this whole starts is Helen, a grad student, is writing a paper on urban legends.
Not just any paper, her thesis.
Yeah, and she comes across this story of the Candyman. And, as she's kind of writing this paper, a janitor at the school is like, oh yeah, we know about Candyman. He killed this lady in our project. So she starts kind of looking into the actual story of this murder that happened that had been blamed on this Candyman. But as she kind of discovers that it's just a local gangbanger using the Candyman name, she's like, oh, see, Candyman doesn't exist. And that's when he shows up and starts fucking with people, because he's like, no, by denying me, you've kind of hurt my congregation. So now I need to kill you.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Ramp my story back up. I only exist if people, fear me.
Yeah, like the sort of the religious overtone of some of his speeches is something that I missed as a kid. It was just more so like, big man, hook, bad.
Yeah. And of course, like every time he kills people, he just kind of dips out. And so then like, Helen keeps getting blamed for like all these murders, and everyone thinks she's like fucking snapped and turned into a serial killer when it's like, nobody. And for a lot of part of the movie, I'm like, because she would like basically pass out and just wake up in a pool of blood and like, oh, here's a knife. And it's like, does Candyman exist, or is this bitch just crazy? It's like, it's one of those, it's like, until like, kind of later on in the movie, it's like, it could go either. It's like one of those, like, it's like, is Candyman a thing, or is this lady just legit fucking nuts?
Well, I'm saying, we've got an hour of this segment. Within that hour, something's coming through that fucking TV. I'm calling it right now.
Obviously, Candyman exists.
I mean, there's already been a bee movies that stung me, on a previous episode. So,
hey, Candyman exists. We're not saying you don't. So please don't show up and kill us too. But then we're not, attractive blonde ladies, because that seems to be his type. At least that's what I've learned from 3 movies.
Definitely blondes.
So we're good. Unless we're one of the guys that get killed to blame, to frame some blonde lady, which is kind of his MO. Is he like the original gaslighter?
I don't know if gaslighting's a word I would use, but definitely dealt a shitty hand in a shitty situation, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of weird, like like especially after the first film, and things get more like, this is your family. Like,
yeah, that's the thing too. Like, because the other 2 movies, like, as far as the story goes, and since this is supposed to be like urban legend, it may or may not be true. At one point in the movie, you know, she meets another professor who's like, oh yeah, I've done a whole paper on Candyman before, and gives kind of his origin story, where supposedly he was the son of a slave who then family acquired money because they invented some kind of manufacturing technique. So he was able to go to like the best schools and was an educated man and became an artist. Well, some rich dude hired him to paint a painting of his daughter. Well, they fall in love and she gets pregnant, and so, you know, daddy's not happy about that, and, you know, gets a group of hoodlums to kill him, and they chop off his painting hand and then cover him in honey so bees will basically sting him to death. And then supposedly they burn the body on the land that would become the was it Greenbrier or whatever, the projects where he was, you know, haunting. But in the next movie you see like, oh no, all this happened not in Chicago but in Louisiana. Like, here's where the whatever Helen's family came from. So I'm like, and then the fucking third movie they jump to like L.A. I'm like, where the fuck did this originally happen? Because the first movie you say like he was killed in Chicago, and then the next movie it's like no, he was killed in Louisiana. But but anyway, I guess at the nature of urban legends, it kind of like, I mean, we did that interview with the folklorist, and it's like, yeah, these little stories that kind of spread, and they've, you know, the story may exist, but like the origin of it and all that, you know, it kind of changes throughout history. So, you know, maybe it did happen in Louisiana. But yeah, it's like a little bit of continuity issues with the with the three films.
I mean, a little bit, and you know, I guess nods for them trying to keep kind of a consistent story, like even with the last film, you know, not having the original director and stuff like that. I don't know. This is one of those that I definitely agree that as a kid scared the shit out of me. As an adult, I mean, we've been so desensitized now, you know.
And I think it had a lot to do with how they did Tony Todd. When he like spoke, it was this, didn't sound like a normal person speaking. I mean, he has a good deep voice, but like in a theater, like they like just kind of turn the bass up anytime he's speaking, so it almost like feels like it's coming from like inside you. His voice just like fucking rattles you.
Yeah, just the reverberations.
And that's the thing, we've done it in haunted houses. It's called like a noise generator. It's like a deep bass frequency that you may not even be able to hear, but it elicits like reactions of like stress and panic. So it's like doing that with his voice and giving it that kind of otherworldly like sound when he speaks, just kind of, not so much watching it on my computer now, but I remember in like,
well, dude, like
the 90s in a theater, I mean, where it's like that
I just remember
deep bass. It was like freaking creepy the fuck out.
How big of a dude he was. Like, you know, I mean, I get it, you know, 6'5", but you know, when this came out, like, I'm like, holy shit, like, that's a big motherfucker.
Yeah, and just not like Leatherface or Jason, just a dude in like a pimp ass fur coat, until he like pulls up that bloody stump hook hand, and then like, hey, let me open up my shirt and show you my my B 6-pack I got here. Oh, and that's the other thing too. Going back and watching this is in a time before CGI. His ass was literally really covered in bees. Like the scene later on where he's like trying to sacrifice her, and he's got like a mouthful of bees. Tony legit had a mouthful of bees. Like they put like some kind of thing in his mouth so they wouldn't like crawl down his throat hole, and like, you know, and got, I guess young bees are less likely to sting you, so they like basically like started a apiary, which is, that's the thing you call people who make bees, so they could get like fresh bees and like cover his ass in like legit bees. I was like, you know, nowadays that would be all CGI, and I'm not seeing the remake, but yeah, the fact that like all the bees you see in Candyman are like legit real bees, I'm like, that's like, I think I saw in like one of the interviews that they had like EMTs on standby with like just in case someone got stung and had a reaction.
Here's all the EpiPens ever.
Yeah. But yeah,
But I mean, even if you don't have a reaction, like, I've been stung on the tongue once. That shit sucked.
Yeah, that whole scene where he's just like mouth full of bees and everything, I'm like, that's even more impressive once you learn that, like, that ain't CGI. Like, homeboy really did that shit. And, he went on to have a huge career in not only the horror industry, but we talked about his voice. I mean, he was a big voice actor too. I mean, he was in a couple of the Transformers movies. He was on the Flash series. He was in a bunch of the DC animated stuff, video games. It's like anytime we need a deep, gravelly voice, it's like just call Tony. Or like we need a creepy, like, black guy in a movie, even if he's not like the killer. He's there just to like add that kind of creepy factor to a movie. Like,
dude, like, I would love to have had him like narrate some novels or something. Like, just
it's almost like a what's his name? Not Samuel Jackson. I'm having a brain fart. Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, fuck. I'm going to have to look it up.
But, he narrates, like, everything. But, yeah, Tony Todd narrating, like, fucking horror audiobooks, that would be just an extra level of, like, spooky. I mean, him as the coroner in, like, the Final Destination series. Like, just anytime he shows up on camera, you're like, oh, this is the way he like monologues at people. It's like, oh yeah, something's bad about to happen. Tony Todd's here. We're all gonna die. And from all accounts, all interviews I've seen, one of the nicest dudes. Like, no, I've never seen anyone say anything bad about the guy.
I mean, that's the thing, like
a horror staple
that I find so. I mean, and it is the same with like metal music and everything else. People are like, oh my god, it's demons, and like you run across people and it's like, no, these are the nicest people ever. It's the fucking lawyers that are the fucking snakes in their fucking business suits and everything else, like just out to prey on everybody.
Oh, that too, and apparently that project that they were filming in was like a legit like a lot of the gang guys that they like, because I saw some behind the scenes stuff. It's like there was several different gangs like operating that area, and they had to kind of pay protection to them to film there. So a lot of those gangsters that are hanging out outside the projects are like legitimate like gangbangers that they that they hired to like so they didn't get fucked with while they were filming there.
It's like, yeah, we're going in the projects. We look like cops. We're totally going to be fine.
Yeah. And they're all like, 5-0 coming up the back way. Everybody look out. And then, dumb girl decides to go back by herself, and that's when she gets fucked up.
Sweet to be sweet.
Sweets for the sweet, or whatever, the thing that was graffitied everywhere.
But I mean, all right, so going back to, folklore and folk tales and everything. So this first, movie, we see, oh, look at there's candy scattered about here with razor blades.
Yeah, that's the other urban legend, which I think it may have happened once. And then how many years, like when you were a kid, like you got to check the candy before you eat it, because supposedly.
And the other thing too is, I've yet to encounter all these people offering me free drugs.
Yeah. Oh, there's gonna be drugs in the candy. I'm like, motherfucker, anyone who's on drugs is not like wasting their drugs to give them out to kids. I mean, you may dose one of your buddies for fun, but it's like, yeah, you're not.
Hey man, you want a gummy?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many videos of people like pick up a bag of gummy bears and not like read the directions that you're only supposed to eat one and like eat a whole bag like you normally would with a bag of gummy bears.
Dude, I'll tell you, like,
just go on a fucking.
I don't know. When I was like
Space.
18 or 19, I was in a break room and there was just a bag of chewable snacks, just chilling there on the table. Turned out they were like vitamin gummies. Dude, I'm eating these motherfuckers by the handful. I got so sick. Like, it's definitely possible to overdose on vitamins. I'm like, I'm immune from all the things now. Oh wait, no, my stomach hurts, my head hurts, I'm fucking vomiting. Like,
Cabrini Green, that was the name of
the project.
The project. Oh. And then of course, homegirl's professor husband, who's like immediately you see him like talking to the students. You're like, oh, this guy's a naughty professor.
Shout out to Stephen Lynch.
Yeah, I'm the naughty professor, baby. Oh, when she goes to they go to the apartment where the lady was supposedly killed by Candyman, and find the supposedly whoever entered the house that they never could prove was entered through the apartment next door through the adjoining walls of the medicine cabinet. When she crawls in there and there's that just like crawling through that hole, and they have that, I think that image is like always floating around, just like crawling out of the mouth of the giant Candyman mural.
I don't know, just those visuals that you're bringing up, that's part of what made it so iconic.
Yeah, it was very like artistically done. I mean, and it was at the time was like unlike any other kind of horror movie that was out there.
Well, I mean, like this was definitely the foray into, more so the psychological realm, definitely was not as gory as, before I went back and watched it recently. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, like, and then I'm like, wait, this wasn't near as,
Yeah, because our first kill, if you'll call it that, that we get, is someone telling the urban legend of Candyman and how this babysitter brought her boyfriend over and like, oh, let's do the Candyman thing. And yeah, that was much bloodier in my imagination than it was like rewatching it, because like, boyfriend goes downstairs because he chickens out after 4, and dumbass decides to say it one more time, and of course Candyman shows up and like, I'm gonna split you from your crotch to your gullet. You just see homeboy downstairs and like hears the scream, and all of a sudden the blood starts dripping through the ceiling, which that was awfully quick. I think it would take a little bit longer than that than blood to seep through the ceiling.
Dude, did you see how thin the walls and everything else were? Like, if the walls are hollow, I guarantee you the floors are too.
But yeah, so you see, and even the later on when he kills Bernadette, her kind of co-researcher. Yeah, you don't see the kill itself. You get to see the the bloody aftermath of it. But yeah, it's like,
oh well, it's just
most
like
of the kills are all done like off screen.
It was just like, you've got a hook. That would take a lot. To just
it's not
become
like a blade.
Jumbled like, like, I mean, it was just literally like, didn't even look like a body. It's just a mound of flesh, and I'm like, that's some serious commitment there with the hook.
Yeah, because like hooks penetrates, it doesn't slice. I mean, that takes some effort to rip somebody from crotch to gullet. We did that cool voiceover where he's the kind of the opening credits of the movie where it's like just him monologuing. I'm gonna get you and split you from your crotch to your gullet.
Yeah, I mean, dude, those
He kind of had like a, I mean, this
be
being
timeless quotes. I mean, that, not I'm big into horror, obviously, so even amongst my, friends and everything, dude, just timeless quotations there.
Yeah, and just the way he would, this being based off a Clive Baker story, very reminiscent of Pinhead to me, where it's like someone's like, "Oh, the pain you will experience will be exquisite," and just just like
so well spoken,
the seductive way of threatening people that he, come be my victim. I mean, I was like, I could see Pinhead saying a lot of these lines.
Well, I mean, that their religion was pain, essentially. I mean, All right, so do we call it? You just want to say Candyhead, just or Candyman's just a BDSM flick?
Not as much as
I can't
Hellraiser,
come to
but,
you if you don't come to me.
Yeah, and just like,
but together we will be coming.
Yeah, and just the way like she kind of almost under like hypnosis every time he speaks.
Almost
to
like
her,
a vampire,
Yeah, we're like, you said the things, and now like you're mine, but I'm not going to just immediately kill you because I want to heighten the terror to spread my message amongst the non-believers, which kind of doesn't make a whole, like, I could understand if this was like a vengeful spirit, but where do you get from him getting murdered by a bunch of racists in the 1800s to just like, now I'm just gonna like basically be a Freddy Krueger of the hood.
Not really. I mean, he definitely.
I can see him like getting.
He does not have the Krueger charisma.
No, but like he's more seductive than Krueger. He's a smooth talking criminal.
Freddy just finger bangs first.
Yeah, but yeah, I was like, other than spreading his legend, so he's like, well, yeah, all right. Now I'm kind of talking myself into it. He's like, because he tells her, he's like, you'll be immortal in death. Our people believe in us, so we're gonna live forever. Yeah, it was kind of, I expected a vengeful motivation, but it was more of a like, this is how I live forever by infecting people's memories and whatnot.
I mean, dude, he's legit a true G. Like,
oh, and the one where she didn't get all the photos she wanted, so dumbass goes back to the projects by herself and runs into the little kid, and she's like, "You've heard of Candyman?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I heard of Candyman. I ain't telling you shit, lady." He's like, "Oh come on, like I'll keep it between us." She's like, "All right, here's the story I heard. This kid like." And this was back when you could still say the R word. She's like, "Oh, so he was sick?" "No, he was retarded." Like, had to pee and goes to this public bathroom, and like mom comes out of the store and hears him screaming, and the guy that went in to check on him, who was a tough dude, like came out, was like hair white, because like found this kid with his nuts cut off and floating in the toilet. And then she goes to check out the toilet with this, and there's like shit murals. Sweets for the sweet, made out of like,
out of non-sweets.
Yeah. And then the fucking toilet full of bees. Somebody forgot to flush.
I don't know about you, dude.
Does Candyman shit bees?
No, I don't think so. He's just one with the bees, I suppose.
Oh. But yeah, the local drug dealer who's using the Candyman legend, dude shows up with like the fucking handheld hook and he's like, "You looking for Candyman, bitch? You found him." And like they beat the shit out of her. And then you immediately cut to like the police lineup, and it just kind of reminded me of The Usual Suspects, where it's like, step forward and say the line. It's like, "You looking for Candyman, bitch?" And it's all I'm having to say that line just differently. It was like kind of a funny moment jumping from like the horrible.
I mean, that
shit
was
the literal horrible shit you just seen.
Yeah, that was a very like very very quick transition. Just like, What just happened? Did I miss something? No? Okay.
Looking for Candyman, bitch. Just the different ways they were saying it. I don't know why but that made me laugh.
I think it was supposed to.
I mean, it was funnier than the Tyson fight. Dude, I was watching the Tyson fight at the cigar shop, and Cocaine Bear was on another TV, and I kept watching Cocaine Bear more than I watched the fights. Like the only good fight was that the lady fight right before the main event. Like that was the only like real fight of the night. The rest of them I was like, I'd rather watch Cocaine Bear.
I mean, dude, that did exactly, in my opinion, what it was designed to do. You know, influencers, you know, your celebs and everything else, just to raise money and, you know, get folks. You know, we're in an era, it doesn't matter if it's, you know, positive or negative, you know, Netflix is making millions, all those sponsors are making millions just out of getting engagement of, you know, people talking and reacting.
Yeah. And I say, as bad as the sequels to this movie was, the highlight of the third film is when they actually, instead of, you know, like you said, they kept rehashing the story of what happened to Candyman, but when they actually show it, like that performance by Tony Todd was like, oh, this guy's a legit actor. That I mean, he did a good job of, you know, that just pained experience. But you know, that scene is kind of the best point of that third movie. The weird, you know, flashback of the flashback scene.
Yeah, I mean,
or was that the second one? I think I can't remember which one that's in, but yeah, whichever one where they had the flashback, I was like, all right, that's
cool. That's definitely the third one.
But yeah, the rest of them are like, this is bad.
Why's it got to be bad, Joe?
All right, not as good as the original material.
I mean, nothing's ever good as the original.
And apparently, you know, Virginia Madsen that played Helen in the first one, like we talked about when anytime Candyman shows up and she kind of seems like she's under his spell, they literally took her to a hypnotist and got her hypnotized, and like gave them like a code word to use, like, you know, so anytime they wanted to get her kind of dazed reaction, they legit, like, you know, hypnotized her to get that reaction. I was like, that's one thing I like about when you start delving into like horror movies, like just the kind of guerrilla like nature of how they film some of these things, just the weird shit they do to get the proper reaction, and or, you know, this the weird effects that you see. That's like the I guess the inventiveness of a lot of these like horror movie makers are just impressive at times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I love about the genre. I mean, is, you know, no matter how dark, demented, whatever, like, you know, you see these same people, you know, at another time, and it's like, you're not near as sick and twisted as I thought you would be. Or, wow, you really portrayed a major asshole, and in reality, you're like, you know, the kindest, most gentlest person ever. Like,
yeah, it turns out you're actually a good actor. You're not an asshole in real life.
Like, they could have used any asshole. They legit forced a nice person to do these asshole things.
Oh. And then see, what was it? So the first time he shows up to her in a garage, like, be my victim. Like, I need, you know, you doubted me, so now I got to show up and fuck with you. And then she just wakes up covered in blood in like that lady's apartment that she had interviewed, and the kid's missing, and the poor dog's decapitated there, and the, you know, cops all think she did it because she, of course, show up, missing kid, dead dog, and you're holding a hatchet lady or a fucking meat cleaver. But she gets bailed out and goes home, and then homeboy shows up in her apartment. And that the hook through the bathroom vanity was like, I mean, it did have some good jump scares in here, but yeah, he's trying to seduce her again, and her coworker shows up, and it's like, and she's like, you should probably leave, but of course, again the cops show up. She's covered in blood, and there's a dead body in the room, so she gets sent to the nut house. And of course, the naughty professor is like, "Sweet, now I don't have to divorce her. She's never getting out of the fucking mental hospital. She's gonna be." It's like I can finally move in my new girlfriend.
With a terrible paint scheme.
Who the fuck paints their whole? This isn't like '80s Miami Vice. Like, who the fuck paints their whole house pink? But then again, I get he getting that young pussy. He's she got him.
Whoa, you can't say that.
She got him hooked. So you do, yeah, honey, do whatever. Paint the fucking house pink.
Only for him to be like, my wife greeted me when I came home, and this bitch wants me to help her cook. I'm so miserable. Oh, dead wife. Woe is me.
Yeah. Let me say your name 5 times. But yeah, when she kind of, they've had her drugged up, and they finally come and get her out of the to go see the psychiatrist, and he's like, yeah, you've been locked up here for a month. Like, we've had you on a lot of drugs. They show her the video. That's the part where you're like, is this real or is it not? 'Cause they show the video of because Candyman.
He's under the bed.
Yeah, and like you can't see anything in the video. And she's like, fine, I'll prove it's real. And looks in the mirror and says the things. And the doctor's like, what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden, just like, Candyman, like, slices him up and then like pops her restraints. Like, haha, I'm going to make people think you killed another dude. And then just like straight, like, jumps out that fucking backward jump through the window. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool look. And I like how she like tries to escape and like crawls out the window and goes into like one of the next rooms and like knocks out a nurse and is like taking her uniform, and there's some crazy dude like strapped to the bed like, am I really seeing this? I didn't be the crazy guy like some bloody bitch just jumped through the window and like knocked out the nurse, and everybody like, yeah, sure, that happened.
Yeah.
Just that guy, the look on that guy's face like, I'm crazy. I don't know if I'm really seeing this or not. These delusions are getting bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, I want to be seen and recognized without being able to be seen.
Candyman is part ninja.
Yes.
Because later, in some of the later movies, you see like security camera of him actually killing someone on camera, and it's like the camera can't pick him up, only the people that are there can see him. So you see just like the cop's body levitating as he's getting Candyman. It's like, oh, okay. So he is like a vampire. He doesn't show up on shows up in reflections, but just not on modern video cameras.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, just non-horror related, starring in The Rock and so many other films. Like, he's just such a classic actor. Sorely gonna be missed.
Yeah, I love him kind of as the connective tissue in all the Final Destination movies, where he's like, death has a plan. Like, and the whole like, every time he tells somebody like, oh yeah, y'all fucked up death's plan, he's coming for you, and he's always like, I'll be seeing you soon. It's It's like, no, don't tell me that, dude.
I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be seen. Or do you want to be seen? I mean, who even knows?
I mean, dude was on Law and Order, Hercules, Xena, X-Files, Smallville, Charmed, Stargate. I mean, the motherfucker was everywhere. Freaking Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. Voice Decepticons and...
I mean...
like a true freaking, legend of the industry.
I want to be a legend. I am legend. Tell me how to be legend.
Yeah, but that when she goes home and finds her husband has already replaced her, and she's like, I've got nothing else but to... Candyman's like, you've got nothing, you just have me now. Like, come to me. And she finds him up in his little crawl space attic taking a nap. And I'm like, does Ghost need to nap? And that kid's been in that, for a freaking month. I'm like, you're just living off of honey, I guess. He's like, come to me, and like somebody's gonna have to die to like to further my story. So if it's not you, it's gonna be this kid. But yeah, he's like been taking care of the kid for a for a month. I was like, how the hell do you keep this child alive, dude? Like, I'm pretty sure like you can't just feed him honey and candy. Is like Candyman going to the store and getting baby food and shit? Fucking changing diapers. Is Candyman up there having to like, yeah. That's the weird deleted scenes you don't see, is Candyman changing diapers for the month while Helen's in the psych ward. Yeah, but when she finally agrees to join him, and and he like picks her up, and that scene where like we already said, we're just the mouth full of bees and starts like making out with her, and like pulls open his jacket, and you see he's like, even though he looks fleshy, when he opens his jacket it's just like bones and like a fucking beehive in his in his chest. I mean, that's just one of those images that like is kind of iconic, and that the chest bee reveal is kind of sticks with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I don't know, like even going back to the bees in the mouth type thing, like that's just one of those that's just like, God, no, I don't want to make out with bees. But knowing like all that had to be done practical versus modern technology wise, like.
And apparently she didn't get stung, but I think I read that like he got stung like 26 times over the course of those like 3 movies. I mean, that's some dedication to the to the art. And then he like, she wakes up and can hear the kid cry, and it's like, oh, they've been preparing this giant bonfire or whatever, and the kid's like stushed in the trash pile, and she's still trying to save the kid, and the residents just see somebody with a hook crawling into the pile, like, oh, Candyman's here, we need to burn him out. And he's got her and the kid in the bonfire, like, oh no, we're all gonna die together, and our bones will become ashes, we'll never be separated. And then she stabs him with a flaming stick and is able to, even though she sustains life-ending burns, is able to save the child. And then you cut to like, homeboy brings his new girlfriend to his wife's funeral, but then like everyone from the project shows up and like tosses the what's left of Candyman just his hook in the grave with her and like kind of honor her, like, you know, you died saving this child, so now you're the new legend of the Cabrini Green. That's one thing too. Like, I expect, you know, the movie ends with ex-husband in his finished painted apartment with his new girlfriend, and he's like upset that like, oh, I fucked up and I miss my dead wife and all the weird shit that happened to her, even though I think she might have been crazy. Starts saying her name in the mirror. He's like, oh, I said, but yeah, chanting Helen 5 times isn't as cool as chanting Candyman, but she shows up all, you know, kind of half crispy, and you know, Candyman's his ass. So he's like, naughty professor, at least got some vengeance in the end. But then I expected like the sequels to be, you know, all right, now, you know, Helen is the new Candyman, but no, it's like she comes back and takes vengeance on her ex-husband, and then you never see her again in like the rest of the series. Like I said, I guess chanting Helen was not cool enough, so we had to bring Candyman back. You know, now apparently his paintings hold his soul, and then in the last movie it's like, oh no, it's the mirror that he looked in before he died that holds his soul. So now we gotta, it's not destroying the mirrors now, or the paintings, now it's destroying the mirrors. We found his one weakness, bonfires.
No, dude, that's not a bonfire. That's a full-on fucking
Burning Man.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit. Like, you got 4 stories of shit piled up there. Like, it's going to be a hell of a party.
Yeah. And apparently they got, like, the city of Chicago to, like, hey, like, while y'all are out picking up trash, if you got anything burnable, just come dump it in this lot, because we need to build a big-ass bonfire for the climax of this movie. And fairly cheap, too. I mean, it was made for, like, $8 million. It made 25 originally, and it kind of didn't do, I mean, it made its money, but it didn't do huge in theaters, but it kind of developed this cult following through the years where it's had some staying power for some reason. Like I said, watching it now compared to like modern horror, it seems a little tame, but yeah, back then it was kind of a new and different way of doing things. And even I seen like an interview with the director. He's like, yeah, the reason I wanted to do the whole her kind of almost being under his spell is like, I find it annoying when like scream queens is like every freaking horror movie, whenever the girl sees the killer, she's like, you know, just starts screaming, and he's like, I got tired of listening to that shit. It's annoying. So I want to do something different in my film and do a different reaction and not just the usual scream queen thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was definitely a unique take. I mean, you know, this is coming on the cusp of, you know, your Friday the 13th, your Freddy Kruegers, you know, your big slasher films. I don't really, you know, define this as a legit, you know, slasher in those regards.
And fairly low body count for a horror movie. I mean, we get, if you count the girl in the storytelling of it, I mean, we get told about 2 murders and we only really see 3 throughout the course of the film. And that reaction when the hook comes through the medicine cabinet, that was like a real reaction. They didn't tell her that was what was going to happen. Like, they're just like, we're going to, go in there and look in your mirror or whatnot. And then that fucking hook comes through the wall. And like, so like when she like freaks the fuck out, like that was like, they legitimately scared the shit out of her.
I guess that'd scare the shit out of me too. Just like mysteriously, like random, like, oh fuck, there's a hook. And it's not Captain Hook.
Yeah, apparently Tony didn't even want to do that. He's like, he thought it was mean. So I think somebody else did the hook through the wall. So did you see the new one, the reboot? I remember. I think we talked about the trailer, but I never. It came out at a weird time, and I never saw the new one. That came out like what 2021, which was a Jordan Peele film.
Yeah, I had not seen that one yet.
Yeah, apparently it's was not a reboot. It was a direct sequel to the original film. So I guess they just kind of like Halloween, skipped all the the additional movies and just went. We're just going to make a sequel to the original film, and you know it's apparently set back in Chicago at the Cabrini Green. But yeah, I've not. It's Candyman, Say My Name. Yeah, I never have not seen that one yet, so I don't know how it stands up.
I'd be curious to see what they did with the modern remake, because that came out in what, 2021?
Yeah, like kind of during the COVID years, so that's probably why I missed it in theaters. But Tony Todd was, apparently also in it, so at least a, and apparently it was his final appearance prior to his death in 2024. So how do you think it holds up if someone hasn't seen Candyman? Do you think like a modern audience would enjoy it, or is it one of those that's kind of a thing of the times where it's like, you know?
I think it does a good. I think modern audiences could enjoy it going under the right expectation and understanding that, you know, this was the early 90s and not, 2024, where you want to kind of see some of the roots of more the psychological side of things versus just relying on gore tactics and, And like I said, too, this is coming kind of on the cusp of, the 80s, slasher genre. This is, before, films like The Silence of the Lambs and such.
Yeah, we got into a more era of more psychological, more supernatural horror than the old school slasher genre. I think it's definitely worth watching if you haven't watched it as an historical piece. Like this is the kind of you see a lot of influences on later horror films. But yeah, like I said, if you go in expecting modern day big budget slasher stuff, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're a fan of the more cerebral horror genre, this is kind of a good early example of that. So like as kind of a horror historian, it's definitely something that you should check out. But if you're just a fan of modern violent and gore, it's like might be a little weak for you. Watch it with a good sound system or your headphones on.
I mean,
so
that's the thing is this effect. Is more. You're going for the narration, and to be able to feel that narration is so huge.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, you've been in a house with the lights off, you're walking by and you like just look in a mirror and expect to see something behind you. I mean, it definitely had like a psychological effect on on me as a child. It's like, I don't want a mirror in my room. I don't want to wake up and look in a fucking mirror.
Or do you want to look in a mirror? I would look in the mirror. As long as no Hook came to look at me back.
What if it's Captain Hook?
I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, you know, you think the Hooks of the pirates, like, you know, I'm wondering with the remake, like, did they give him, like, a mini scythe or something?
Or it needs to be like Ash from Evil Dead, where he just has like a series of attachments where he can like switch out his hook for I mean, it's kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's like, yeah, the hooked killer in that. It's I think it's definitely you know, other horror movies have drawn inspiration from the Candyman. But yeah, that's you know, rest in peace, Tony Todd. And this here cigar, as we kind of wrap up, got a little bit of a little chocolatey, very oaky and earthy. It's definitely got some strength to it, but it's fairly balanced. So if you want a stronger cigar that's not going to like just overpower you, pick up one of these Diesel Tempests at your local TAA retailer. And with that, we'll be right back with some science. And you've been watching the Cigar Nerds podcast. Motherfucker over there. Check us out on cigarnerdpodcast.com and on the ESO Network, esonetwork.com. And don't forget, smoke them if you got them. Like, comment, and subscribe.